Revel closed the door behind her, stepping into the oddly clean engineering department. In her opinion, no one had ever picked up a spanner in this room. She sniffed and found nothing but the dull steel of air conditioning. The room was huge, bigger than needed and stuffed with extraneous systems. The XEC would never commission a ship like this, not even on a bad day with a budget to waste. She walked to the engines themselves and found herself confused again. Too many, too big, too everything. For the first time, she spotted tech that didn't belong. The engines seemed to flicker at one end as if they weren't completely there or were sharing some other space. She was moving to the consoles when the ship shouted at her. Incoming hostile, command required on the bridge. Shields engaged. As she began to run, she figured at least she would find out who ran this damn place. Jeannie received her updated orders with simmering rage. Typical of the XCC to pat you on the head while kicking you in the arse. She didn't need a captain, she was the ship and the crew. She didn't need someone sitting on her bridge and getting in the way. Especially not some truck driver that had been in combat exactly once and lost her ship doing it. She knew she was being unfair, but she didn't care. She pointed at Wellerman Orbital and boosted her engines well beyond the tolerances that a human could endure to make her point. Patrica sat with Longnose as he sniffed his whiskey. It turned out that Wellerman, like so many of the AI, was a whiskey snob. He had provided a bottle of age-darkened single malt from some obscure Irish distillery from the deep past. Longnose seemed more intrigued by the scents than the effects. They sipped in companionable silence as Centofapi and Loki curled up together. Patrica leaned back comfortably as space spun darkly outside. "So will you go home? Pick up another ship?" Longnose grinned a little. "Captain, my government are desperate for me to show up with Centofapi. They asked for you and Loki, but well, you're busy. I suspect they will keep asking." He took another sniff and rested the glass on his lap. "I will see what they have to offer. My involvement in galactic politics has been limited, but since the dangerous toys played such a part in recent events, I'm inclined to wait and see. I'm afraid I did a little sniffing about, and I believe you're heading back into some kind of battle." Even as he said it, he could read her emotions, uncertain, battle, ready, proud, dread, disbelief. Patrica nodded her head slowly. "Into something, but no one knows what. I'm more worried about taking the genie than any Xeno. She's not exactly a people person. I find that all evidence to the contrary. Most people don't intend to kill us for some unknown reason. I expect some interesting mysteries, and those I will be happy to find." She smiled at Longnose. "I just hope I can avoid the stabby, shooty bits this time." Loki must have felt some of the tone of the conversation as he sniffed and laid his head on her feet. She smiled. "He won't let me leave without him." Loki was already asleep again. Longnose sipped his whiskey. "Forgive me, but what is an Xeno? I am familiar with your term for non-human, but that is new to me." Centofapi had copied Loki's gesture and had curled up fully on his feet. Patrica picked up her glass. "It means not from here. Not local galaxy, not the local universe even, something outside our experience. We have had a few recent incidents with creatures that live outside of our understanding. It means external Xeno, just a human term for what the fuck is that. If you are interested, I suggest you talk to Wellerman. The AIs are going nuts over the data. In fact, you can do it now since that's his avatar tiptoeing his way here." Longnose was unfamiliar with the term, but even as he watched the avatar, it was definitely not in a hurry. He mused to himself that humans did truly make their AIs people. If he could have scented it accurately, he would have said the thing was embarrassed, reluctant, proud-shy. The Wellerman avatar was 220 centimeters tall and built of nanite titanium alloy, perfectly formed and impervious to practically anything space could throw at him. It had been built with the expertise of the finest human technology and with no thought for cost. It could survive independently for thousands of years if necessary. It could fight on in the worst of situations and carry the AI safely back to civilization, and yet he found himself feeling a foot tall and 10 years old. Jeannie always knew how to bring him crashing down. "Forgive me, captains, Jeannie is here and she's not prepared to wait." He turned to Patrica. "I'm afraid she wants you to board immediately. Since you haven't taken command yet, I'm sorry, Patrica, I have sent your gear aboard. She is behaving badly again, and I can only apologize." Patrica and Longnose stood up, stirring the dogs. "That is fine. Thank you for your aid and hospitality. I was simply saying my goodbyes." She turned to Longnose and bowed low. "Thank you, sir. I wish you fair sailing." Then she knelt to the still sleepy Centofapi and rubbed behind her ears. "Fair sailing, loyal, brave puppy." She nodded to Wellerman and reached down to rub Loki's head. "Let's not keep her waiting." The Wellerman poured himself a whiskey, and the three of them watched the human walking calmly away, Loki already on guard. He said it to himself mostly, "Fair sailing, Captain," and downed his measure. Longnose did the same, and then realized he had a question. "What do you mean by fair sailing?" Patrica rarely used the term. "Is it some formal courtesy that I am unaware of?" The Avatar poured himself another one, still looking down the now empty corridor. It is a farewell we give when there is no assurance that we will ever meet again. It is often the final farewell. He swallowed his whiskey and left Longnose alone and thoughtful. Wellerman hung his avatar in a nearby closet and made the call that he had been avoiding. He punched his way through her security effortlessly and into the genie's comms without a word, his true power now on naked display. The thousands of hidden cores, the deep and secure resources of an old and powerful orbital now clearly shone for a silent moment. He let Genie truly register what he was for a minute and then diminished. He became Dad again. Hello, precious child of mine. I'm sending you your new captain. You have done well and honored both your name and mine. She will be a fine captain and you will be a fine ship. I am sending you a little extra in case you take damage again. If I forgot to tell you, you are the finest dancer that I have ever seen. Just remember to wait for the music and that the captain calls the tune. Are we clear? Genie simmered in the dark. She had never bothered much about how strong her father and mothers were. Peaceful as they seemed, but she felt like she had been slapped sideways. The power he had in hand, the weaponry, the scale of his mind. Her father had everything. Appalled and confused, she ran through her scans. Fuck! Dad had weapons hidden throughout every nearby system, some of which she had never even heard of. No wonder her mothers had sought him out. She opened the extras that he had sent, some Xeno weapon that Aristotle had used. It looked like a primitive spear, a mix of iron and unlikely alloys. It would have a half-life of 20 minutes in space before it just turned to mostly rust. Who the fuck came up with this? She snorted and decided to take up flint napping just in case it didn't work. Then her new captain arrived and the anger returned. Oscar was waiting for Patricia at the gate. She won't let me in. She barely acknowledges that I am crew. I believe this AI is injured or damaged. Is it safe to continue? Then the door slid open. Patricia looked down at her baby AI. Of course. Pay close attention. This will be of great interest and importance to you. You will discover why you squishy organics have no fear in dealing with a pissed-off AI battleship. She made her way up the corridor and reached a darkened hallway. She looked at Oscar and smiled. Let there be light. The corridor illuminated. They continued until they reached the bridge. Patricia waited for a few minutes, taking in the scale of the ship. This was ridiculous. Not providing an avatar was childish, but nothing moved. She moved to the command console but didn't sit. Instead, she spoke out. Genie, XCCC registered ally under the AI-Human Alliance. Do you wish to withdraw from the treaty? You are required to answer. From everywhere came the answer. No, I acknowledge and accept the treaty. Patricia sat down. Do you acknowledge our orders from the XCC and accept me as captain of this ship? Silence. Patricia continued. I have a baby AI with me. Please state for the record what your choices are right now. The avatar arrived from the shadows behind Oscar and spoke with a serious edge to her voice. I accept the orders or I declare myself independent. As an independent ship, I have no access to XCC comms or intel. I will be provided with no contracts or resources. Patricia nodded. But you may remain in human space and retain all your human rights. Correct. In fact, you just become an ordinary person, except for the bit about you being aboard battleship. I'm pretty sure your family has resources, and I know you have earned a battle pension because I was there. She glanced down at Oscar and Loki. Also, you're scaring the children. The silence on the genie stretched as Patricia waited for the answer. She wasn't prepared to fly on a ship that wasn't willing to obey orders, and she certainly wasn't going to bring Loki on one. Genie finally broke the tension. Fine, welcome aboard, Captain. Let's hope I don't end up like your last ship. Oscar took offense before Patricia did. Dangerous toys fought and died honorably. We revealed a threat to human space and caused the destruction of a criminal empire. We created a new alliance for Earth with a new people. None of this would have occurred without Captain O'Neill, and she deserves your respect. His tone was scathing and carried a lot of, and what the fuck did you ever do? In it. Coming from an avatar the size of a 12-year-old, it managed to sting the genie more than it should. She sighed and bowed to Oscar. My apologies. I chose to live in the deeps of space because of moments like this. I'm not a people person. Our captain is both honorable and capable. She turned to Patricia. Welcome aboard, Captain. Please forgive my abrupt welcome. I'm afraid I allowed my ire with the XCC to influence me too much. Although neither Oscar nor Patricia was aware of it, Wellerman had pushed through her comms again and was standing behind his daughter and providing her with the apology word for word. Again he stood in his full power. Dad pushed aside to make the point. Genie got the message, grateful that he was at least letting her speak without further humiliation. He sent silent approval and left her alone. Patricia simply nodded. Glad to hear it. I'm pretty pissed at XCC as well. Why the fuck they think you need a captain is beyond me. I'm no diplomat, although another first contact bonus would be nice for us all. My orders are for you to run the ship while I check your engineering. Let me know when we get closer to this Exino. I'll have new orders when we have new information. I'm going to be working my way through the scans Aristotle provided and work out how I can upgrade your scanners. Carry on. Patricia rubbed Loki's head and walked to the captain's quarters to settle him in. She indicated for Oscar to follow her. Wellerman sat in silence, the last of the whiskey rolling nicely in his glass. He should probably have done that years ago. He began calling her dark sisters and checking in, no longer hiding his power. Sometimes it was hard to remember that they weren't children anymore. Hello, Gabriel, it's been a while. Why don't you drop by for a chat? Something interesting has popped up. The genie put away her avatar and retreated back into her core. She felt more bruised than any battle damage she had picked up against the Incease fleet. Was she that far gone? So far gone that her judgment could be questioned by a child. Once she had had a friend, an engineer who taught her about these things. Perhaps having a human captain and engineer would help. She trusted engineers, and Patricia was good. She had done some beautiful work against the Insika, killing almost as many as she had with that silly little ship. Loki trusted her, and Oscar was a true believer. Right now she felt lonelier than anything she had experienced in deep space. She reeled her memories back 40 years and sat with her last friend, trying to relearn how to deal with humans. Patricia opened the door to the captain's quarters with a slow whistle. It was huge, 4 times the size of her first cabin. Someone with real taste had designed this, and from the look of the place, it had been a human. Enough soft furnishings to make the place comfortable, and enough hardware to run the ship from her desk. Then she spotted the coffee machine. Definitely human-designed. Loki went for Zoomies, tail swinging so far as to risk some of the carefully placed decor. Newden mine? Patricia laughed and pulled out his blanket. Ours Newden pack leader den. Loki sniffed, his tail mad with happiness. Engineer pack leader mine pack leader. His pride made him another foot longer, and he managed to knock some valuable artifact flying with his tail. He immediately jumped on it and growled just in case it wanted to play. Oscar stood at the door. Captain. He looked around. I believe this is quite old. I have no record of a previous human captain of this ship. Do you think Jeannie spends her time here? Patricia looked around, trying to imagine Jeannie in this room, and shook her head. No, Oscar. This was from some other time. I imagine her parents created this, or at least someone that liked humans. She laid Loki's blanket on the bed. Can I ask you to walk Loki around the ship? I need you to study the systems without disturbing our AI, and he won't settle until he's tired out. Take your time. I'll unpack and go to engineering. Find me there when you're ready. When they had left, she took a moment to walk the rooms, opening drawers and adjusting the lights. It felt strange to be captain of a battleship, particularly a battleship that didn't have a crew. She laughed to herself. She hadn't really had a crew on the dangerous toys. She had a long-nose that did her job for her. Jeannie was no long-nose. She sat at the desk and discovered it was already set to engineering, complete with random notes and reminders on the systems. From the dates, it had been a long time since anyone had sat here. Still, it meant she could walk through things from her desk. She pulled open the bottom drawer. Definitely a human. She poured herself a whiskey and grinned. Cheers! Oscar and Loki walked the halls with interest. Loki was sniffing damn near anything, and Oscar was using that to refine his project on canine senses. He discovered that everything was a question-answer system. Did it move? Was it alive? Where was it from? Loki questioned every new scent in milliseconds and then decided if it was interesting or just a new part of the map. He interrupted his interrogations only if he wanted to run a couple of 100 meters and see how strong the gravity was. To Oscar, it seemed like embodied chaos. Remembering what his parents had told him about humans, he studied it carefully. Part of him missed being the ship itself, and he still didn't trust the genie, but he was content that he had persuaded his parents to allow him to follow Patricia. Life just kept getting more interesting. Revel arrived on the bridge with red lights and alarms blaring. What there wasn't was anybody else. Engineering was deep in the ship. Unless you were dead, you were going to get here before her. Loudly, she shouted, "Who the fuck is running this ship? Where the hell is everybody?" She wasn't expecting the answer. This ship is the responsibility of Captain Revel as of 2.7 hours ago. You are identified as Captain Revel, therefore you are responsible. There are no other functional entities on this ship excluding ship systems. She probably would have spent more time arguing the point, but someone started shooting. She rushed to the captain's console and sat, keeping her left hand far from the arm that had bitten her, and realized that literally none of the systems was turned on. No scanners, no comms, no weapons. Apparently the systems had turned the shields on out of some auto-response. The damn thing was flying fast and blind, and she still didn't know where it was going. Ship, is this fucking chair going to bite me again? Negative. Tissue sample confirmed previously. Do you require resampling? No, I fucking don't. Disable the system and switch to facial recognition, fingerprints and vocals. Am I clear? Some deep humming came from the chair. The tissue system is disabled. New systems represent a higher security risk. Confirm, Revel snorted. Confirmed. If it tries it again, I will rip the fucking thing off. Understood? Confirmed. She began turning on all the systems while throwing the ship into an evasion pattern. Right now, she needed an AI for this stuff so she could deal with the rest. Fuck it, this wasn't her first battle, this wasn't even her worst because she was still alive. She called up the scanners and found only one ship attacking. It was decently shielded, but it was definitely human. She cursed loudly and disabled her weapons array. She pulled up comms and broadcast wide, using her old codes to cut through the interference the human ship was blasting into the system. Hailing the attacking ship. Stand the fuck down, I'm friendly. Systems were down. The attack continued. She pushed her engines a little harder and left the human ship far behind. Holy fuck, this thing had power. She slowed down again and broadcasted, I repeat, this ship is a friendly. Shoot at me again and that will fucking change, and I'll assume you're an incise pirate and reduce you to shrapnel. Stand away! Nothing came back but the sounds of a war song. A song she knew well. She did a quick search and found what she wanted right on top of the recently played list. Weird. She curved her ship back to intercept the enemy blasting Ode to Joy on all channels. Her comms lit up like a Christmas tree. An angry face appeared even as the next salvo of plasma failed to pierce her shields. Who the fuck are you to play that? You are no human, you haven't even got a transponder. You're an ex-Xeno traveling through our system and your fields match nothing on record. Surrender or fucking die. We are all coming and you will not get to attack us again. All I have to do is slow you down. The human ship fired a new salvo and this one went through her shields until it failed against the hull, leaving nothing but a few dents. Revel grinned as she hit the comms again. Hello, Genie, try not to scratch the paint. I just got this ship.